Hey everyone, I'm Rebecca the Reseller, and you are watching Rebecca the Reseller. Thanks for joining me today for a very exciting video. I'm hoping that this is going to be the first of many, but it may just be one. I'd like to do a series on lessons I've learned from my favorite YouTubers. I've been watching reselling content and being a reseller now for almost 4 years, and I feel like it's time to really take stock of the lessons that I've learned over time. And there are some really wonderful resellers that I've been watching since the beginning, and I have one of them here today, Lindh of Daily Refinement. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
absolutely. For those that, for whatever reason, today's their first day on YouTube and first day as a reseller, and they have no idea who you are, please go ahead and give them the Lindh rundown.
Awesome. So I'm a reseller online. I sell on multiple platforms, eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. And now people want to look at my store to find out what I sell. It's a mix of store returns, clearance items, some vintage things I think are fun. And then my YouTube channel is about building a e-commerce business, something that you can call your own. And I sort of consider reselling the golf of business because you can, as long as you're mobile, you can do it for pretty much forever. So I think that my store is a passion of love, and also it's interesting, and no 2 days are the same. So I really enjoy talking about reselling and sharing it and doing it. So I'm happy to share any ideas or questions that you want me to share with your
Awesome.
audience.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that, as a reseller, as somebody who watches content but then also makes content, you have the people that you gravitate towards and you feel like, you kind of dig them, you kind of relate to them. And those are the ones that you'll continue watching for the long haul, no matter what goes on. And then there are the ones that kind of, come and go a little bit. And for me, with you, you've been one of those, steadfast ones over the last few years that I've watched and really taken a lot of cues from. You've given me a lot of nuggets to work on and things to think about. But I think the biggest lesson that I've learned from watching your channel is the very concept of your channel now itself, which is daily refinement, which is not being complacent and continuously trying to improve. Even if you've got something good going, continuing to shave off seconds of your process or continuing to find that unfair advantage that you talk about. So I would love to just hear from you, like in your own words, as like a meta thing, because I know you're giving out content all about it all the time.
Mhm.
What does all of that mean to you? Like what is daily refinement? What's your perspective on it?
So I have a few people that I look up to, and what I noticed about them is even though they're very wealthy, they usually do not talk very much. So I've met the most wealthy person I know. If you have a conversation with him, it's going to be 90% you talking. He's going
Mm,
to ask questions. Hey, what are you up to? What's working? What's not working? He's asking questions to find out what everyone else is doing, and he's just picking nuggets to add into his own life. However he's doing it, he's observing. And I learned from him often that he reads the same book 3 4 5 times in a row. Most people do not do that because he's like, there's no point in reading it and not doing it. And it takes a long time to change anything. So when he told me it takes a long time to change anything, I'm like, looks like you've changed a lot of things. You have huge 500-person companies, whatever. Seems like that's a lot, but it still takes a long time for each little incremental improvement. And I
right.
love habit design. And when I started recognizing, okay, um, the people that I admire the most are really humble. They're really focused on what they need to do, um, and that is a more peaceful life, even though it seems like it's chaotic with a lot of stuff going on. It's not when you think about what can you only do today.
Mm,
And when you realize how little you can do in a day, then you just become humble and peaceful and quiet and a lot of and also I look at that like a rocket ship leaving the atmosphere. If it takes 1 million gallons of fuel to get out, to change any kind of habit, then you cruise because you're out of that gravitational pull of whatever. And you'll see people who excel have really, it sounds kind of sad, but maybe disciplined lives that are sort of organized. At least the part that they're trying to improve is very focused.
mhm.
And I also think that when I look at the people that I most admire, they're usually done with the work about noon. So if someone is um, excelling at the expense of everything else, that's not somebody that I want to follow.
Mhm.
Because the thing that I've noticed about people at the very top is they have space. The people that there are people on the way to the top. Like as an example, I will use Elon Musk. I
Right.
don't feel like he is at the top of his game because he has too many projects. His time is spread too thin. It's very, it looks scattered, and he doesn't look like somebody at the very very top. There's like Jeff Bezos acts very differently. If you look at how he's organized, one project, all in, very clear, a lot more thoughtful when he makes actions, and it's very different, right? So when I look at how people organize their day, that's why I changed my channel. When it was only about reselling, it was a lot more popular. People like talking about how to make money, but then I realized if you just try to make a little bit more, if you start reselling brand new and you list one item a week, that should be doable. Find one item in your house and list it. And you
Mm.
just increase it by one listing every week. At the end of the year, you're making a full-time living.
Right.
But to increase your listing by one per week is going to take your full attention.
Hmm.
It's not because it's literally much harder as you go. But once you get to the point where it's like from 25 to 26, you won't notice it. But
Right.
in the beginning, 1 to 2, very different. 2 to 3, different.
Yeah.
3 to 10, crazy. But as you start growing, starts to become incremental. I learned that also from Olympic athletes when they're training. Each week, the goal is just 1 more pound.
Mm.
It's not, and the number one goal above the 1 more pound is don't get hurt.
Right.
So I remember we just had our conversation talking about maximizing your profit as you begin. It's good to be small and not get hurt. If you invest 5 grand into a pallet and it doesn't work out, that's like breaking your arm. That's
Yes.
hard. It's hard to recover from that. So that's where my channel gets the idea from.
Okay. And so that need for constant improvement, and those are the things that I resonate, with your channel. So for me, maybe it looks a little different for me in my particular life or my particular business, but the general principle of constantly trying to improve, not being complacent, always striving to do better. I struggle too with trying to figure out, and I'm curious if like, do you know where that need comes from in you? Like, do you know why you constantly want to get better and do better? Is there, obviously just from learning from the person that you mentioned, the
Mhm.
wealthy guy or whatever, like, is there another layer or aspect to someone that wants to have behavior that consistently improves over time, and knowing that it's a road and a conscious effort to do versus someone that just does that coasting, whether or not it's improving or not?
I know where it comes from. It's from I don't like the concept of scarcity. I also don't like the concept of just getting by.
Mm.
If Because from my experience living, it never works out how you want it to work. Things always end up worse usually, or unexpected things pop up. So I want to operate from a place of abundance. So
Mhm.
if I fail my objective, I still meet my basic needs. And
Right.
also, you can't give if you personally are in a scarcity situation. Like if I am only one disease or injury from being broke.
Right.
I'm not abundant to the point where a $40,000 surgery wouldn't really mess me up. So like when I look at people like my boss, or my old boss is beyond, way beyond the need. Like he couldn't spend it, and he could have 10 illnesses and still not run out of money.
Right.
The point is when you are abundant, you have options. When I look at the people who are donating $1 million towards something, and I look at most of the charity is all like 1% of the US does 50% of the charity.
Mm.
So when you look at that statistic, you're like, holy crap, that you have a lot of options to help. You can make a big difference. One person resource I want to give to your audience is Remit Seti. Not Remit Seti, Naval Ravikant rather. Remit Seti is great on how to control your personal finances, but Naval Ravikant is I think he's worth $10 billion. all of his resources on Twitter and his book. Most of them are free.
Mm,
And when you read it, and this is the type of advice that you can only create after you're really abundant. So the advice is basically become really good at something and then learn to scale that something. You mentioned that before. Then invest that money into something more passive. That
mm,
is the like real estate or whatever. That's
right.
the formula. But
Hmm.
I didn't get that memo growing up. My memo was general ed, right? Go take a bunch of classes, kind of figure it out, go do something. It wasn't get to the top of whatever you do, because you only need to do that one time. You see
Right.
kids that, oh, they're a successful business person now. Like, what would you do as a kid? They're like, oh, I got really good at making Legos. I got really good at biking at home. They learned how to get good at something early in life, and that transfers to everything. So
Yeah.
for me, the scarcity and just getting by concept is sort of how I was raised.
Hmm.
I didn't see the like make extra so you have extra to give. That you know, if I had to ask my family for something, it was never it was always a stretch for them. They would always give it to me. And I admire them for that, but it always was like damaging. I would love to be able to give and not have to worry about getting something in return.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I struggle with myself. That's why I was curious what you said, because I know you've talked a little bit about your family and stuff before,
Hmm.
and I don't think that we have that necessarily in common. And so I was just curious, like, what is it that's in someone that drives them to have this, relentless need to, and I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for myself. I
Hmm.
don't put words in your mouth, but a relentless need to continuously improve. And I think you're a little bit younger than me. I think maybe by a couple of years, but we're in
Hmm.
our, 30s, going to be in 40s. And it's, families and things like that. And you think about, will you ever get to a place where I've refined? Like, will you ever get to a place where you don't need to continuously improve? Will you ever get to a place where you're happy with your business? I wonder about that for you and for me, because like I said, I try to operate by the same principles of, will I be able to get to a point in my business where it is copacetic and I can just continue to crank? Because I keep saying that that day is coming, but I don't know if I'll actually get there. Do you think that you'll get to a point where you can say that you've refined enough and you're at the place in your reselling business or whatever other businesses you get into where you can
Yeah,
just
I
post
mean,
at that point?
I look at everything's is just how I use my time. So, for example, I feel like I'm refined when it comes to coffee. I like my coffee a certain way. It's already like a 9 out of 10 as far as like how good it could be. It's the flavor I like. It, I can make it quickly. There's almost no cleanup. It's like refined, but
Got
then
it.
also the variety is nice. So I think it's the spice of life. I'll try a different coffee. I'll try a different method of making coffee just for fun. It's interesting to me. But yes, I will when it becomes there's a definitely, I would say the first third of something is exciting, interesting, cool. Then the last like the next third is kind of a grind. And then
Mm,
if you want to do the final third, it could take a whole lifetime to really master coffee, the exact temperature, the exact bean. I'm growing the bean myself. I'm roasting it myself. I'm trimming the
analogy.
plants. That level of mastery is, I'm like I want to get to the B minus of most things, so that it gets by. But I get it. It's like, when does it ever end? I like the concept of the daily goal. You had mentioned on our conversation before, like the 5 things you want to get done in the day. And
Yeah.
if you get those done, you feel great. I like that more than a long 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goal, because the five is just so present. You're here, and then you may not be here in 1, 3, 5 years. So I think when I recognized how short our time is, you put down what you want to do. Then you don't worry about social media. You don't worry about me changing my channel. I knew the views would go down, but I'm okay with that. But it would be hard if I was only money driven. It would have to be how to make money online, Chris, because that's like the most important. That's what makes money online, is talking about how to make money online. telling
Right.
telling people that you should just be good and improve slowly is not sexy.
Right.
Oh, it's going to take me 3 to 5 mom years or parent years to get to the same point as single guy with no responsibility years, right? That is depressing.
Yeah.
And so, but it's again, for me, I want people to be realistic and peaceful, because I think that just the when you look at the amount of time that you're awake in a day and what you can do,
Mhm.
that is also where it comes from. Because I think, okay, we all have the same 24 hours, and I want to be proactive. I would like to decide what I do the whole time I'm awake. And it's super unfair, because when I look at your life, you spend a good chunk of your day serving others,
Mhm.
but by responsibility. My responsibilities are really small. So like the looking in comparison. So I I I think there's also something really powerful about owning your own gig. Your channel is something you created. That's very valuable. It's serving a need, and I think that's important, because instead of just um, selling something for something, you're actually providing some value. You're adding some creativity, some light. So I love your concept and the way that you're running everything. But for me, I love looking at um, just maximizing your time, and the level of mastery is, hmm, I guess, um, my final thought on this is the community aspect.
Mhm.
So when I first started my reselling journey and my journey online, I realized how many people you can reach, which is just staggering. And it made me realize I really want 5 friends, because it's so deep to know what's going on in their life, and then when you start to have a family, it's mainly your family and maybe
I don't
two
even know if I
people.
can handle one friend.
Yeah, exactly. So once you get to that point where you have a family, it's probably one or two. And I like that knowing, and it's comforting. If something were to happen, who would you call? You don't want it to be, I don't have anyone to call. That's pretty sad.
Right.
But having 10 people you could call, you probably wouldn't have any business to get to that level.
Yeah.
Who would you ask for a kidney transplant from?
Yeah.
If it's more than two, I would consider yourself very lucky to have that deep of a relationship with someone.
I am kind of like not perplexed right now, but it is very possible that everything that and I'm really happy that I'm having this conversation with you. And I think that there are a lot of people, I know from the comments that I've gotten of people that have watched my channel, I've referenced you before because you have had a big influence on me, and they've mentioned that they came over from your channel. They also like your channel. So I feel like there's some crossover with our audiences. And I'm curious if they'll feel the same way as I do right now, which is hearing you talk about daily refinement and your whole concept and everything that you're doing with your channel. I feel like I almost misunderstood it a little bit, because sometimes I've taken it as keep trying, keep pushing, but that almost sometimes results in changing directions and trying this and seeing if that works. And as a way to improve, then trying something else. And so what I found is that by doing that a little bit, not shiny object syndrome, purposefully, deliberately making a change in your business to continue to get better and thinking that it's maybe better on the other side and zagging here and zagging here. Does that take you away from, if you had just stayed the course, you'd have success eventually if you had just stayed on one path, and it takes longer by going this way and this way in the pursuit of improving, but really you're just changing directions. Do you feel that way? Like maybe I took that from you and I like put my own stuff on it and it's not really what you're saying.
Well, I think if you, um, I am the the quality about myself that I like the least is that I'm curious. I wish I wasn't curious, right? Because then I
Yes.
wouldn't wonder, So I'm like the master of making something profitable, and then it's like, okay, this is how I feel. I feel like I raised a beautiful child, and then I just abandon them in the forest. That's how I feel. This is just terrible. Oh, the terrible parent. You're supposed to just raise them all the way, at least till when they're
Maybe
18.
like a good wolf parent
Right,
or
a good wolf parent. But if I could just wait till they're an adult, then they can take care of themselves. And it's great, but I'm not. I'm literally abandoning them and getting another child and leaving it in a different forest. And now I have all these starving children. It's not a good look. I get it though. I mean, so I'm working on that part myself. I like the pursuit of less. And I think that, you know, that's something that is a level of discomfort and a level of FOMO, but I'm good with it. I that's why I like the concept of, as I'm getting older, I'm deciding I want 5 friends. As I'm
Mm,
getting older, I'm deciding I want three things. And I'm also, like, as an example, I would love getting really good at an instrument, but I've decided that, you know what, I can be, maybe just not right now.
right,
Instead of saying no forever,
right.
just at least make reselling into an 18-year-old and then start something else.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a criticism at all or anything like that. It's just an observation that I maybe didn't make before, but now having talked to you and this kind of like talking to you about your, concept and everything, it made me think that maybe I was thinking about it all wrong. Maybe I thought when you're saying constantly improve and do this, and I have that same feeling, but I took it in the direction of, change this business model. No, I should do high end. No, I should do volume. No, I should do this. No, I should do that. And maybe it's about daily refining the thing consistently, but staying the thing. You know what I mean? Like whether it's doing high end home runs or doing, volume, but just
Mhm.
constantly getting better at that and not getting better as a whole by switching paths.
Yep,
So
I
it was like
agree.
a nice little aha moment for me there. And like I say, people have mentioned in the comments that they like so maybe there's some people that are similar to me and had that kind of like, brain issue there with that. I do want to ask you about switching channels and then, I'll let you get on. I want to be mindful of your time and everyone else's time, but I do think that having switched from 10K on the Bay to daily refinement probably brought a level of concentration and focus to you because now that's what you're talking about versus, this other crazy goal that you had. Is there any thought on that as far as like now that you've changed your channel, you feel a lot more focused in what you're putting out to people as far as like the mission that you're portraying to everybody that watches you?
Definitely. My relationship now is much deeper and smaller. So I like that. I have a mastermind call I go to Monday or Sunday through Friday every single day, meet with the same people. I talk about what we're going to do today. It's a stand-up meeting. That's how I want to organize my life and my day. What can I do today? Do the day. Go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be smaller. It's less exciting. Every time I go shopping, people are like, "This is what I want," and I'm like, "That's not what I want." But I'm gonna do maybe one for you once in a while. But that's like I get it, especially because I think we live in a time of um, high stress,
Mm.
multiple income, and then the pressure of having a kid. Also, you can contact more people in a day than you used to in your entire life. The amount of stuff is really high, so what that creates is a lot of stress, which makes people overeat. It makes people drink. It makes people medicate. It makes people binge watch TV
Mm-hmm.
or YouTube.
Right.
So my channel is not bingeable, because if you watch one and you're like, now I need to go lock myself in a room and think about something for an hour. So it's not bingeable. You have to take a break. So it's not what YouTube wants.
Right.
And so I get it. And so yeah, the change is good for me mentally. So I'm loving it right now. I feel like I actually know people. And now I feel comfortable saying no.
Right.
I used to not. I used to be like, I would love to do this with you, but I don't have time. But so I'm just making time for things I really enjoy,
Mm.
rather than just speaking or going to a bunch of things that is just too much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think that that was all really good perspective. I think, I don't know, speaking for me again as somebody who watches a lot of YouTube, because that you're my coworkers, right? Like, even though you don't know it when I'm watching you, like, you're my coworker for the day. You go, you know, to the storage unit with me, or
Mm-hmm.
you're here when I'm taking pictures, and that's
Mm-hmm.
comforting. I think that's how we all, you know, those that do choose to consume content, that's kind of how we do it. And it is nice to have a chat with you about what it is that you're trying to do, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to kind of pick your brain a little bit, because sometimes it's not the kind of questions that you want to be like, oh, hey, I have this question in the comment, you know, like, it's not that, you know, that's very surface level stuff. And I really appreciate the deep dive, and the opportunity to chat with you as one of my favorite resellers. And
Thank you.
again, for those that have been watching, you know, Chris helped me out very early when I started my channel by, you know, allowing me to do a little series with him. And it was only a few months after I'd started my channel. It was just the right boost to put a very new channel in the place to kind of start reaching out to others. And so I'm always going to be grateful for that. I do appreciate that. And I thank you for coming on today. So for those that are watching, it's at Daily Refinement on Instagram. It's Daily Refinement on YouTube. It's Daily Refinement. You still have the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So check him out everywhere. I will link it down below, but I appreciate everyone's time for joining me today. I appreciate Chris's time. And we will see you in the next one. Please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on your way out. Thanks so much. And I will see you next time.
Take
Bye.
care, guys.